Well, this is sort of an after the fact video. I worked over at Kevin's this morning on a BSA, putting a new wiring harness on it. It's interesting that new wiring harnesses are more trouble than just going ahead and creating a new harness from scratch. The wiring harnesses are specific to the bike you're working on by part number, but they don't fit. They don't fit because they're made to fit various and sundry models, some of which have different wiring, some of which have different locations for parts, and we have to modify them for electronic ignition and modify them for a solid state charging system. And by the time you get finished doing all that stuff, you put in more time and effort than just putting the bike together and hanging new wires, which I really prefer to do. So anyway, I've been working on this bike. I've fixed up all this underseat wiring here. I have this test lamp plugged into a connector that has ignition, that is ignition on. I'm going to turn on the key up here, and you'll see that we have ignition. Power right there, okay? That's off. Ignition, ignition with lights. So we have ignition, and I don't have a headlight to show you, but I do have a tail light to show you, showing that we have tail light. So we got ignition and ignition lights all wired in. I'll show you something I've finished on the other side. I've bought a new assimilator. I'm throwing away the old can type, and I bought this new solid state one that came out on the later bikes, and it's about that big. It's maybe an inch and a half. I'm going to mount it right in here on this plate, and these are the wires that go to it: ground, ignition, warning light, and 2 wires coming from the alternator. So once I get it mounted, I will hook up these wires to it. I've got the battery installed and just sitting there. I won't strap it down yet because there's more to do. I've got the wires going to the starter and the ground, so it would actually spin the motor if I asked it to, which I'm not going to. This little group here I think is completely and totally superfluous. I'll double check that because basically all the systems work, and I'll just have to figure out what did this guy used to do for a living. I think it was wires coming out of the alternator, a ground wire, some blue wires, which are usually used for lights, and I'm not sure. But basically, I'll probably end up truncating this and sealing it off. It might even be a neutral. One of these might be a neutral light wire. I'll have to check it. So anyway, like I say, I spent the morning at Kevin's, and then I spent about an hour doing this. So we'll call it done. And tomorrow I'll try to do some video over at Kevin's so you can see what we're doing over there.